Beverly D. Quinn, 421 Briarwood Drive. My property abuts the property being requested for rezoning. Are we allowed to ask questions or simply make statements, or how does this work?
This is just a chance for you to make your comments based off of the drawing that you've seen in the proposal that's out there.
Right, that was not made public on the town's website, that we could only come up here and see in person. Yes, sir, thank you.
We follow the law of the state of South Carolina.
I understand. And did not notify me.
Ms. Quinn, you're actually not a resident of the town of Packlet. You had the option to annex yourself into the town of Packlet when we made made you aware of this a year ago, and you chose not to annex your property into the town of Packlet.
Part of my property is in the town of Packlet. The line runs across my property. I do pay part of my property taxes to the town of Packlet. I simply do not get garbage pickup because my home does not fit in the line where the town limit is.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Oh, and before you, I did say 5 minutes.
No, you didn't tell me 5 minutes. Did that take up part of my 5 minutes?
We'll start it right now.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. So I'm sorry, my teacher voice is coming through. So I just wanted to make a couple of observations here. I am not in opposition of the town of Packlet growing and developing, as I think we all agree that it needs and should do. I'm very much in support of that. I am the adjacent property owner, so this property, this rezoning, literally, according to that drawing, will be 15 feet from my property line. So I do have a vested interest in this as a landowner, regardless of my residency of the town of Packlet. And so the use of this property, being a high-density neighborhood, is very concerning. When the neighborhood that it backs up to was just upheld in a meeting to the appeals board in May, that the surrounding area is an R20. And that was upheld in May when the lot, also adjoining my property, was trying to be rezoned. So that's very important in this, that all of the neighborhoods around the surrounding area are R20. So this planning neighborhood would not be R20. I'm very concerned about the number of homes, therefore the number of residents that would be added to our town, although that sounds like a very good thing that we all want. Increase to the tax base, more people, we need more people shopping here, we need more people eating here, we need more people supporting our local businesses. Absolutely. We have one trash truck that does not stay running. We can't keep people on that said truck. We have inadequacies in our police department, in our other infrastructure. What will that do? I have not seen a plan long-term for the addition of this number of people and the sustainability. Do we have a financial proposal for how this will financially impact the town? It's not just a matter of getting tax dollars in. How much are we going to have to spend, and how will that be sustained? The environmental impact, that property is home to lots of different species. So I haven't seen an inventory of the ecological basis on that property, how it will be handled, how it will be destroyed, how it will be preserved. I can attest to the number of deer on that property. And the buffer zones, 15 feet from my property line for a neighborhood of this size does not seem like it is adequate. I would like to at least have a larger variance, and I would like to have a permanent fixture or barrier between this type of neighborhood and the surrounding neighborhoods. We need to just simply be smart about the growth. Like I said, I'm not in opposition of growth. We need that. I support that. But too much too fast is not going to be healthy for our community. And I just hope that you'll take those considerations into play. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Heath Henderson. I live at 353 Briarwood Drive. Said proposed development backs up to my property also. I'm neighbors with Dee Dee and a few other people. What we're looking at here is a development that's a high-density development. And a high-density development brings in a lot of different things with it. It brings in a lot of more calls for the fire department, our police department, and everything else. When you look at that, the crime statistics are there. You can go to the county and the city of Spartanburg. Both of them work together to show the amount of crime that happens within a high-density area. I'm not opposed to growth in the town of Packlet. I think we need some growth. I would rather see industrial growth than I would a new housing development behind my house. I would rather see that because there's going to be more money coming in as long as our town or our county doesn't give away all the tax money and a fee in lieu of taxes. It would bring in more money for the town than a said development. With that being said, you're looking at, when they're looking at building this, they're looking at building 276 homes of different styles. That's 183 single-family dwellings, 93 townhomes. And this is what we've seen here. In the town of Packlet so far, we have 2,274 residents according to the town's page. So if you add one person per house out of this, you're going to add a fifth of our population in one neighborhood, 50 acres. And also in that, we have 1,093 housing units, 941 households in Packlet. And if you add 276 houses, you're going to add a third of the residences we have already to what we have in a 50-acre area. But the town of Packlet sits on 7.2 square miles, which is 640 acres per square mile. You do the math, that's 4,608 acres in the town of Packlet alone. So if you break that down by the number of households we have now, it's about 4.8 acres per house is what we're sitting on right now. Now we know that in the Mill Village, everybody's closer, but a lot of places have bigger lots and everything else. The said area you're talking about around Briarwood Drive is set up like that. Same thing off Noble Drive, everything down below the fire department, down below the old town hall and everything else. Those neighborhoods are a lot, have a lot more room around them, and the houses might be a little smaller, a little bigger, but they're not packed on top of each other. When you set that in there and look at it, the amount of money coming in, if they're proposing to sell these houses from $260,000 to $290,000 per unit, you're looking at a tax assessment. You'd probably break it in half or a little more. And I looked at my tax assessment to see how it went. So you break that down, if you went with the highest one, $290,000, it's $145,000 times 4% times the town's millage rate of 0.0842. It's about $488 per home. That's all the town's going to get. So if every home sold, 1 year's worth of taxes off of that rate would be about $134,787 is all the town's going to get. So when you look at that and you break it down and you look at it, now there's permit fees going to come into that, and it depends on the cost. I don't know what the cost, how much it costs those guys to build a house because they build so many. They're like Walmart, they buy in bulk, so they're getting a better price at what they're buying. Talking to builders, I know it costs them $200 to $250 per square foot to build a house. So if you go with 250 square foot, you're looking at about $950 for a permit for $200,000 in cost of building. So you're looking at $262,000. It's a one-time thing that the town's going to get, and that's all they'll get. One time off of the building permit fees, and that's all. So that's not bringing in a lot of money to the town of Packlet for the amount of houses they're putting in, for the amount of calls we're going to get. It's going to increase call volume for the fire department, the police department. You're going to add to our schools. I think the school said 1 student per 4 houses is what they average. Right now, our elementary school, I think Ned just told me a little bit ago, we're close to 48, 50% full at the elementary school, but the middle school is close to being full capacity. And the Calpins are looking at building 300, 400 homes over there in one area, not counting what else they're going to do. Keep bringing that in, we might start building more schools, and then the taxes go up again, because they've already asked for a tax increase this past 2-3 years to build a middle school or add to the middle school that they converted from an elementary school. So what are we going to do? We're going to keep building and building and building our schools and just taxing our citizens for everything that goes in. So you get to looking at this town's budget right now is $1.5 million. The police gets about 48% of that, $595,330. So out of that, $321,000 of that is salary. So your average salary for a police officer in Packlet town is $53,000. And if they're only getting $134,000 of that, you ain't putting a whole lot of people on, because after you add in the $10,000 a year for insurance, the $2,100 for workers' comp, their taxes they pay, that the town has to pay for those police officers at $4,000 apiece, and their retirement at $11,161 every year, and all of our police officers have a take-home car. That's averaged out to about $10,000 a year in salary if you look at what the government says now. We're right at about $90,000 a year for a police officer. With $130,000 coming in from all these taxes, we're not putting many police officers on. And there's not a lot of other fees after the permit fees are gone. The fire department itself would only, at the 20 mil rate that they get right now, the fire department would get in about $32,000 a year after all these taxes are paid, if they ever get built through there. And it's not going to be a one-time thing, it's going to be over a length of time before they get that money. If you're looking at what it costs you to put turnout gear and an air pack on a firefighter, it's about $10,000. Might even be more now. It's been a few years since I've looked at those prices. You can't even pay the salary of a firefighter at $30,000 a year. Every fire department around us that have paid fire staff are paying somewhere around $40,000 to $45,000 a year starting out. We're not going to be able to pay anybody. Our fire department already has a low budget, and housing is not the way you fund the public services. Police, fire, EMS. Speaking of EMS, you add this many people in, you're going to be more than 276 people. EMS is already asking the fire departments around Spartanburg County to answer calls for them because they can't answer their own calls anymore. They did away with our volunteer rescue squads 10 years ago because they told them if you can't answer your calls, you're no longer going to get dispatched. So they quit sending the rescue squads, and they had to close up the doors. We had 2 in Packlet. Rescue 6 had 2 units, and they put them out of business. Now they can't do any more because they're asking the fire department to cover their calls. And the fire departments are not budgeted to cover these calls. It's costing money for the fire departments to maintain their trucks. They're having to train people more, give them more training and everything else to cover what EMS can't handle. And we're asking to bring more people into our town. Median household income in Packlet's $40,000 a year. Median household income in Spartanburg is about $50,000 a year, give or take $3,800. And once you get to that, a person that makes $40,000 a year can't afford more than a $90,000 home. Who's going to buy the homes?
Thank you.
We don't have enough people.
Thank you. Next. Somebody else wants to speak?
I'm Tim Burrow. I live in the Mill Village, 1230 Cleveland Street. Even though I don't have property up there, it will affect me. I'm one who is now fed up with subdivisions. I work in subdivisions every day. I go see them. Mark III property does not care about Packlet. All they care about is building houses. They'll go up there and they'll wipe out every tree. And if you have a house near Mark III's property, I guarantee you they will not leave a buffer zone. You'll look straight at the muddy mess until they're finished. They do not leave buffer zones. I've been around the subdivisions where they'll take right to the property line. And if one time you've seen the forest, you'll never see it again. They don't care nothing about wildlife. Our wildlife is suffering in our county because all of our forests are being wiped out by these developers who do not care. They ask you to grant them permission. Why don't you ask Mark III property what they'll do for the wildlife, what they'll do for green space. They'll do nothing but take it out. I dare you to say no. Spartanburg County Council is full of yes people who keep saying yes, yes, yes. They don't care. But we have to somewhere put a stop and say no. We like our forests. We like our wildlife. We like being small. We like being a small town. They're in Landrum right now, taking Landrum small town away from them. They're in cow pens, as once said. They're starting to build in cow pens. You can't go down Main Street in cow pens, Harley, because it bottlenecks, and they want to fill that up. I dare you to say no. I dare you to say that we like Patrick the way it is. Enough's enough. I have a slogan. We'd rather have our forest than another subdivision. I'm tired of seeing all of that going to waste, our forest, our wildlife. I beg you, if you say yes to Mark III properties, there'll be another developer down here, 2 months, 3 months, and then another one, and then another one. They'll just keep on. Say no to Mark III properties. So we don't want the subdivision. And if you say yes, go down here to the circle and take those flags off those poles where it says Patrick, close to everything, far from ordinary. You'll be ordinary when you say yes to Mark III properties. You'll be like Boiler Springs, you'll be like Emmett, you'll be like cow pens. You'll be ordinary. So we need to take it off and get rid of it. Please say no to this subdivision for the sake of our beautiful town and our wildlife and our forests and the beauty that it brings. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else?
I'm Joyce Garner, and I live at 291 Cedar Lanes Road in Packlet, and our property abuts up to the property in question here. I don't know if it's already common knowledge or not, but I would like to know how many of these homes are standalone homes, or are these townhouses, just a row of houses? Can they answer these questions for us today?
It's 183 single-family dwellings and 93 townhomes.
All of it's in the plan.
Okay, well, we didn't come in time to read that book. But also, 15 feet for a buffer zone is not very much for this one section here. And is there any plans for a fence or anything for privacy from this big complex? A fence, a wall, or anything? No wall? Has a wall never been mentioned?
That was not part of the application.
Part of that application. Has it been mentioned? Because it was mentioned to me that there would be a wall as a buffer.
The developer will give a presentation later on, but I'm not aware of this.
We'll get a presentation later on, open to the public.
Yeah, everyone's going to listen to it.
Okay. Also, the fact that the landowner has recently passed, I would imagine all of this will go into probate.
I'm not an attorney. I can't answer how it's going to proceed.
You're with
but
Mark III.
As I'm with the town of Packlet.
You're with the town of Packlet. Are you representing Mark III?
Me?
Uh-huh. No one's representing Mark III here? Pardon?
They're going to come and do a presentation later.
Oh, okay. Well, I do know that the owner has passed.
Yes.
And the contract, I'm wondering, has it been signed? If it hasn't, it might be a little bit of a breather for everybody to regroup, because it will have to go into probate.
That's between the inheritors of the estate.
The inheritors
and
have not been assigned as executor and
Mark III
personal
properties.
representatives yet. So, and it takes about 2 or 3 months to even get an appointment with probate. So nothing's going to be quick with this. But I was told that there would be a wall. So I guess we'll just come back and wait for the developers to give us some more information. Is there any certain amount of green space that is required? Does anyone know?
30 acres.
30
30 acres
acres?
is what they're proposing, right at 30 acres.
What they're proposing, is that
If you-
in the guidelines?
They'll be up here in just a minute, they'll tell you everything.
Oh, they'll be up here.
They're
Okay.
here, they're here, they're gonna tell you everything you need to know.
Oh, good, okay. Well, that's all I have right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any more comments?
My name's Rick Barnum. I live across the creek, the property. It borders up to where the waterfall and all that. And I'm going to say I oppose it because I'm the only person that's been allowed on that property since 2010. Mike and I was probably one of my best friends. I've always looked out that property for him, kept it clean. I've always managed the wildlife over there since 2010, but nobody was allowed to hunt that place except me or go on that property except me. And I'm just going to say it's a beautiful, it's probably the prettiest piece of property in this part of the country. I talked to him a few weeks before he passed away, and I said, "You would never sold this property, would you?" He said, "Oh, no. If you hadn't gotten sick and passed away." He said, "No, it would have never been sold." You know, he knew I cherished it the way he did, and he said he would like for me to get that property, but I couldn't afford it naturally, you know. So I'm just saying I would definitely oppose it because, you know, I'd go over 2 or 3 times a week, you know, and didn't walk in or whatever, and, you know, because I've hunted it since 2010, you know, helping keep it bush hogged and everything, cut trees, we've done it all, you know. So pretty much looked after the property for him because he lived in Spartanburg and I lived across the creek from him, you know. Anyway, I just want to I do oppose that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else for comments? Anyone? The public hearing is now closed. Now I'm calling to order the planning commission meeting. I'm going to read the FOIA statement. In compliance with the Freedom of Information Act, notice of this meeting was submitted by fax to the Spartanburg Herald-Journal, posted on the bulletin board in the lobby of Town Hall and on the town's website. Could we have roll call?
Ms. Levens?
Present.
Mr. Kennedy?
Here.
Ms. Eastler?
Present.
Ms. Hardy?
Here.
Ms. Cannell?
Present.
Ms. Burnt?
Here.
Mr. Mitchell?
Next on the agenda, the minutes of March 12, 2025 have been distributed. And I'm sure each one have had time to look at it. So can I get a motion to approve these minutes from March 12, 2025?
I make a motion we approve.
I second.
Discussion? Any changes? Any? Okay.
Nope.
Vote. All those in favor? Opposes? Minutes have been approved. Next on our agenda is discussion regarding zoning ordinance. But Patrick, would you mind doing some research on the buffing and schedule a later meeting?
Sure.
For the council?
Yeah.
All right, next on the agenda is consider RZ 2025-01, a request to rezone 3-33-00-002.00 and 3-33-012.01 from 1-1 light industrial to flexible review district and C-4 general commercial district.
So this request came in from Mark III Properties, who are under contract with purchasing a property, and they're requesting to have the property rezoned, one section of the property to be rezoned as FRD, Flexible Review District, and C4, which is General Commercial District. At this time, if you don't mind, if they can come up and give a presentation of their proposal, and then y'all can ask them any questions that you'd like. And then at whatever point in time y'all, would like to move forward and consider this, that would be the next option. So I'll have some representatives from Mark III Properties. If y'all could come to the front, state your name, introduce yourselves, and we'll go through the presentation.
Good evening, and thank you, Patrick, for that presentation. My name's Maddie Moore. I work for Blue Water Civil Design. We're the engineer of record on this project. I'm here with Paul Harrison, and then I also have Darren Webb. He's the representative from Mark III Properties. Just to get started, we are proposing a rezoning, a portion to FRD, Flexible Review District, and then the other portion to C4. Just to give a developer overview, Mark III Properties is a very well-known real estate developer in the upstate of South Carolina. They're one of the most regarded land developers in this part of the state. There's a lot of points on here that their values and beliefs that they hold true. So I'll let you take some time to read through those. The next slide shows an aerial view of some of the developments that they have in the upstate. There's, in a sample amenity area that they've provided, a monument sign. These are typical of what this development may look like as well. The next slide, it shows an aerial view of Packlet and the property in question with our current site plan. It just kind of shows, this is to the southwestern corner of Packlet. The next slide talks about our preliminary concept plan. We are proposing 276 residential units. 183 of these are single family. These are detached, 52-foot wide lots. And then we are also proposing 93 townhomes. Those are 24-foot wide. We are proposing 4 new public roads, 1 stub out to that commercial out parcel, which is not a part of the residential development, but interconnectivity that will be beneficial in the future for those commercial out parcels. All of our roads will be public, and these will be owned and maintained by the town of Packlet. And then visitor parking will be provided at the amenity areas and other designated parking areas. Sidewalks and walking trails are provided throughout the plan. This just encourages walkability through the neighborhood and provides easy access to the open space tracks. Next is the community amenities. Mark III is proposing a covered pavilion, a couple of dog parks, a recreation field where kids can go out and throw the baseball, kick the soccer ball, some walking trails, and also a playground for kids to go play. And we are proposing 35% of the area to remain as open space. This is a mix of undisturbed wooded area as well as the cleared common area that will be used for active amenities. That's 28% of the site. It's about 1/3, 28.7 acres of the site, or 35%. Next, we do have all of our will serve letters, so there is adequate capacity from the associated agencies for utilities. Duke Energy will be the electrical provider. City of Union Utilities is the gas. We have a letter from Packlet Fire District that they will be the fire service provider. Water will be Spartanburg Water System. There is an existing water main in Highway 176. There is sewer available on site that will be served by Spartanburg Sanitary Sewer District. And lastly, communications will be Charter Spectrum. Next is some sample images of homes that could be built in this neighborhood. These are just samples that could change, but these will give you a good idea. The 24-foot townhomes on the top, and then the single-family elevations on the bottom. And this is just an overall site plan to give you some direction. I know you have some more detailed in your packet, but we're happy to answer any questions that you may have.
As far as the parks, thank you, I appreciate y'all being here and explaining that. As far as like the playground and parks and walkways and stuff, is that only going to be available to the residents in that area, or is that going to be available to the town-wide, whoever would like to come?
It's my understanding that this will be residents only. There will be an HOA established that will take care of these areas, and it will be for the residents to use.
Thank you.
Have y'all made any contact with the school officials about what effect it would have?
We do. We had a letter from Julie Fowler, the superintendent of District 3. She says that there is adequate capacity in the elementary, middle, and high school to take on this number of students and this development. They have adequate capacity to serve it.
What is your projection of the number of students?
Typically, we go based off of the national average. I believe it's around 0.5 students per house.
Yeah.
Kids.
Try that one again.
About 276 and a half and everything.
Now, one other question I had. When you're building these houses, okay, so many town type and then single family, do you do a mixture of it, or do you just concentrate on the townhouses, or?
Yes, this project is planned to be phased in 2 phases. It's my understanding that it'll have a proportion of each type in each phase.
Okay, so in other words, because I know the people that be buying townhouses will be different than the single families, of course.
That's correct.
And rather than all of the townhouses, most of those are single people that lives in there. And so anyway, I was just wondering how, you've got a progression on how these will be built, or what? A plan or what? Tell me how you're going to do it.
You've got I believe in your packet, or the packet that was sent out to y'all in advance, I believe it's a 3 to 5 year build out.
Right.
And it's just, I guess it's based on demand in terms of what's needed out there.
That's right. We'll start with, maybe half of the townhomes and half of the single family, or some proportion thereof, and the first phase will be built out, and then once that sells, the second phase.
Okay.
Can I add one thing to that? My name is Paul Harrison. My address is 718 Lowndes Hill Road. And just to be clear, that Mark III is just a developer. So they don't actually do any of the home building. They sell lots to a potential home builder. So neither us nor Mark III Properties actually builds the homes. And I think Patrick is spot on when he said, we have visions of, just based on market studies, demand, we have visions of how long we think it will take to build it out, but it could be much faster, or it could be lag a little as to what we said, but because it's all based on demand, and it's all based on price point, availability, That's why we try to put a big focus on amenities for the community. I'm somewhat familiar with Packlet in the area. I'm not aware of any new subdivisions in Packlet. So this is a little different, and I understand a lot of the questions and concerns. But we're trying to bring forth a product that we think, with our access being solely off of 176, we have good road infrastructure to and from the property. We have good visibility from the road. We have existing infrastructure in place with public sewer, public water, and a 4-lane highway in 176. This is an ideal location for if you want to call it a dense neighborhood. This is an ideal location to have a more dense product because of the existing infrastructure that you have in place. Well, I just wanted to make that statement.
What is the size of these lots that these homes will be built on?
Use your microphone.
These 50 foot.
You didn't hear me? I want to know what the size of these lots are.
So the
And I'm a
single,
little bit confused when you're saying that you're not with Mark.
I'm not with Mark III. We're, Maddie and myself are with Blue Water Civil Design. We're civil engineers. We're working
And you
on,
just did the civil engineer work for Mark III.
we put together the package and the presentation for Mark III. Mark III is our client, and Mark III is a developer who develops subdivisions.
Okay, so where does it say how big
The lots are, there's a site data table, I'm not sure.
acre, you know?
Yeah, they're-
3/4 an acre,
2/10.
2/10?
If you got 80 acres and you use 30 of it for open space, that leaves you 50 acres to put 276 homes on, that leaves you 210.
If you don't mind,
The lots are, I'll be glad to answer that. So the lots you see in yellow on the screen, those are the detached, single-family detached lots. Those are 52 by 135, 52 feet wide by 135 feet deep. So there's roughly 7,020 square feet. And the townhomes, the townhome units or the townhome lots are 24 feet wide by 100 feet deep. So the lots are right around a sixth of an acre, and the townhomes are less than that. It's because it's a townhome attached product. And here, there is some benefit. There is benefit in protecting the open space and common area on a piece of property. When we can take that property outside of the lots, we can control what happens with that property. We can ensure that if it's left to be undisturbed and preserve the existing trees and stuff, then we can control that when it's on common area and open space. And what happens is, everything outside of the lots, once the lots are platted, everything outside of that gets put into a conservation easement, and that land gets protected in perpetuity. It can no longer be further subdivided in the future. There's nothing that can ever happen with that land. It will always be open space and remain open space.
Again, with that open space land, is it going to be open space for the community that exists here, or is it only going to be open space for the residents that will reside there?
It's going to be open space for the community.
For even if you do not reside within the subdivision?
It's going to be open space for the subdivision community. It's not a public, the residences are paying for the residences, there's an HOA that's set up, I think Maddie mentioned that. These residents pay a regime fee every year, their yearly dues. They're paying for the upkeep and maintenance of those areas. Those citizens that would live in that community, would have access to those amenities.
Thank you.
And it's not to say that maybe you have some existing residences in Packlet currently that want to move to that community. I don't know, you did some research on the last time a new home was constructed.
Yeah, I just looked into the comprehensive plan, and this subdivision does encompass the long-term vision for growth and community development that is listed in your comprehensive plan. Over 1/3 of your housing was built prior to 1950, and in Spartanburg County, the average is 22 years newer. So very little construction has occurred in Packlet since 2009.
Is there somewhere that was stating that,
Let's have order, please.
is there somewhere, when you're saying the comprehensive plan, when you're reviewing the master plan, I don't recall an area in which we talked about such dense growth in there. Is this something that you...
We looked at the quality development sections and the healthy neighborhoods. This project is intended to help address the aging housing inventory, attract new residents, and enhance the town's appeal to broader demographics. We feel that it will contribute meaningfully to Packlet's growth and long-term sustainability.
Okay, thank you.
I had a question.
Can we ask questions out here?
I saw the roads there. So all the roads inside this development, the town of Packlet will have to service
So
and maintain?
it's currently the proposal is to build the roads to public road standards and to turn those over to the town of Packlet.
But if it's an HOA, like, the regular people are not going to have access to those roads.
No, people would have access to the public roads. It would be a public road. They could drive in through the subdivision.
My problem is like, we barely can keep the streets that we have now fixed, let alone a subdivision.
One of which we don't get any amenities for.
Like, my street hasn't probably been fixed in 30 years. It's got some potholes.
Yeah, I think that is the intentions in the proposal. Obviously, we could discuss that further if,
And I had one more question. For between the people that spoke that their property is going to butt up, is there any way that you can put fencing or like a berm with trees that's higher to give them privacy in their homes?
I know 15 foot was thrown out. We don't have anything within 25 feet of the exterior property line. The intentions for that area would be to preserve that existing vegetation that's there and keep that existing vegetation because that's your best natural buffer possible. We're not opposed to in areas that maybe need supplementing of additional features, whether it's a fence or landscaping. I don't think we're opposed to shoring up some of those gaps.
So I'm looking at this, and there's a property here that has a house that's very close to the property line. That's me. Okay, but they're going to have 7 new houses right behind their property.
The trees are also on our property, so they're not.
Okay, we have to,
So that
let's have
property
order. Let her speak.
has 7 new homes that's going to be right in their backyard. Is there anything that can be done to give them the privacy? Like when they did the laptop plant over there, they had to put in the hills and the trees and all that. Is there, because it looks like these houses are almost, well, the property lines are right on the property line. And they're very small lots, so.
Are you referring to the house that sits right on fronting Morningstar? The upper,
I don't have that here.
this,
Yeah, and there's another one trying to get close.
No, down further. This one right here. Look at all those buildings. There's 7, but still, I mean, they're used to their privacy.
That's my house, that's my deck, that's my pool, that's my building, that's my barn.
I can say this, we want to be good neighbors. We want to, we don't go into a project if we think it's going to be unsuccessful, and we understand we can't go in and just, we understand that there's sensitivity sometimes in communities like this. So I would say that we would work with the town and some of the adjacent property owners to work through some of those buffer issues if there's a major concern.
Are these areas with the water, are those retention basins?
Those are stormwater ponds, yes, ma'am.
My
At least
question,
if there was a barrier that went behind where all these new houses are going to be, there's got to be, what, 20, at least 20 houses there. going in.
My question to Mark, who is a developer, why so many houses? I mean, that, to me, that looks like greed, whereas you could use less houses here, and people would probably be more susceptible to back that project. But that's just absolutely, 200-something houses is just too much.
Well, thank you to the Planning Commission. My name is Darren Webb. I'm with Mark III Properties. Address is 170 Camelot Drive, Spartanburg, South Carolina, 29301. Again, as Mr. Harrison and Ms. Moore kind of alluded to, we are strictly developers. We are not home builders. So we saddle up with home builders who don't have the capability to do land development. They just want to build homes. So we help them out. So they dictate what they want. They have huge marketing departments that dictate, and analytics department that dictate what each market drives and the product that they need and the size of the house that they need. So if we were to do a larger lot here, you're driving people out of the market. It's, everybody would love to have a 1-acre lot or a 2-acre lot, but they're not going to sell that. So they're not interested in that. So I understand you're concerned about density, but that's what the market is, for Packlet, for, majority of like Spartanburg County. It's just the reality that, we don't have a whole lot of people in the area that can afford $1 million homes, I guess. And so this is...
So are you going to, I'm a little slow here. You're going to buy this property and then you're going to give it to developers, sell it to them?
No.
So as of right now, we don't know who is actually going to buy it?
No, we are under contract. We are the developer.
Okay.
So we will actually, we're under contract.
So if you're under contract, why can't you make less houses? Because if you're the one that's doing...
Because we can't sell it to a builder, because nobody can afford these larger lots based on the economics and the pricing of the area. And this is what our builders ask us to do. They ask us for 53-foot lots and these 20-foot townhomes, because that's what the market drives. Otherwise, if we were to go larger lots, then nothing's going to happen, because you drive the people out of their price point.
But the town could dictate, correct? The town could dictate what the builders can and cannot do.
I don't think so, because this adheres to our land development ordinance.
It's not zoned for what you need, right?
It's not.
Correct.
Renee, it's not.
You're correct.
As of right now, it is not.
No, this is...
It's zoned, yeah, it's zoned industrial.
This is the property that was residential, that when we passed this new zoning ordinance, we changed it to industrial
Light
with the
industrial.
intention of not having houses there. This is that same area.
No, I know exactly where it is, because they have another down, right by this property, there's another 68 acres that's been sold that's not in the city limits, that they're putting a whole bunch of houses in there too. We won't get anything out of that. However, it's just gonna create issues, I think, for the town.
So my question is, how long would it take to build that many houses on that property?
It's probably a 3 to 5 year process.
And it's only based on demand, correct? Like only on demand, like as somebody approaches you saying we want to build this house, you're only building the house on.
Correct. I mean, typically we'll hitch our wagon to a builder who's like, I want all of it, but they'll want to take it down in phases. So, the initial phase could be, hey, we're going to take down.
Y'all gonna have to be quiet back there, because she can't hear the questions up here. So she's got to dial them in, we can't hear. Okay? All right, go ahead.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you.
So, In a typical world, we'll get like plat approval, then we'll start our due diligence, that takes a couple months, then obviously we'll have Blue Water engineers start their design work, which takes a couple months, then they'll submit their plans for approvals. Once we get our land development permit, we hit the ground running. We got equipment on site and we're starting work, and that takes, by the time you grade it, you put in utilities, water, sewer, curb, gutter, pavement, pad out the lots, get it final platted, then you can start selling lots to the builders. And they have a certain takedown schedule. Some of that starts at like, hey, we're going to take 30 lots, and then every quarter we're going to take another 30. So it's typically like a 3 to 5 year process.
Do you currently have builders that are already interested?
Yes, multiple.
How many would you say if you had to give a ballpark with those interested builders, do you think you would be able to fill this subdivision up with the builders that already are interested?
I think very quickly.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I got one question again about parking. I've been in a lot of these neighborhoods before, and there's cars parked on the street in any way possible, and some of the people that buy these houses are going to be truck drivers, and they like a place to put their truck, sometimes at night, especially a privately owned one. Are you making any provisions for any parking around other than in the house that they own?
Define truck driver. Are you talking like an 18-wheeler?
Oh, yeah.
That's
Okay.
probably not going to be allowed in the...
Well, as part of the HOA documents, you can't have trucks, boats, anything like that. You can't have a trampoline in your front yard. You can't raise cattle in your backyard. I mean, it's going to be very buttoned up. Now, as far as a family of 4 with 2 teenagers with cars and, they may be parking 2 in the garage and 2 in the driveway, or 1 in the street. I mean, it's a fluid situation. I can't answer that question, but yeah.
Okay, now who's going to enforce that? The town of Packlet?
That would be part of the HOA, their board, to have the residents, if they see an 18-wheeler parked that they call their board and say, he's against the violations of the covenants and restrictions, and he would be...
So in other words, you're going to have a security group in that HOA?
That's a part of the HOA's determination. We don't have any part of the HOA. I mean, there's a management company that will take care of that, but I can guarantee there's not going to be any 18-wheelers or boats parked in... If residents speak up, it's part of the residents to speak up and for the HOA to kind of like maintain that.
Because I've heard a lot of negative rumors about some of these HOAs and security groups. Not very good. A lot of negative comments, like the security group goes to the head that they think they're regular policemen, and they're not. So, that's one big...
I mean, they're going to get fined. I mean, if you park a boat in your front driveway and you're not supposed to, the HOA is responsible for fining them. And then it's a lien on their property.
But that's a lot of problem in a lot of these HOAs. And I've seen a number of these type where they're parking every which way because they got no place to put it. What I was thinking, if you had some area that you could let them go to the park, are you thinking about doing anything like that?
We haven't. That's a little bit atypical from a standard neighborhood.
Okay.
What is the square footage, the basic square footage of these houses that you're going to be building?
I think the townhomes, yeah.
The square footage of the townhomes will start at 1,415 square feet, and the single family will go up to 2,015 square feet. And to add to the parking, all homes will have a 1 or 2 car garage and 1 or 2 private driveway spaces. In the statement of intent, we have said that it will have a minimum of 2 spaces per unit, with 1 driveway space and 1 garage space, as well as the visitor parking.
Okay, so I'm looking at this, same thing, and I'm looking, so 2,000 square feet is going to be the biggest property for the single homes, single families?
That's right.
Well, that woman's house is about as big as that lot. That lady's house that I was speaking of before is about the same size as one of those lots. The one with the pool,
The one here, the one there with the pool.
behind 210.
That could be
whatever it is.
That could be a barn that's back there.
No, that's her house, the driveway comes out, that's her house, then there's the pool. That house is the size of those lots.
No, that house is smaller than the lots. You could take that house and put it on one of those lots.
And touch every lot.
Hey, where'd it go?
I mean, I'm not, this is,
I'm just, because people have conveyed their concerns of privacy, the high density. So I'm just concerned about them and the nature. And my other concern is not having access, like the town people, because there are people here that want a dog park or playground or whatever, and I don't like that our police are patrolling there, but we don't have access to those things. And people were concerned about the nature, the animals, that kind of thing. I don't see a lot of that here being maintained. I see the retention basins and then that little corner right there.
well, if you look at, I mean, the house in question with the pool, I mean, at some point in time, that lot was wooded. It was completely wooded, and I'm sure there were animals that lived on that lot. And does it look like to me there's many trees left on that lot? So,
Just taking into consideration what people here tonight have said.
yeah, I understand that. This is definitely, this is definitely different. This is definitely different than, it's going to be different than the surrounding areas. It's going to be different than anything built prior to, call it 2000. It just is, but what we've experienced and what Darren can attest to is a lot of people don't like to come home on the weekend and spend all day cutting grass. A lot of people like to have low maintenance. Maybe they're young professionals who work at some of the new industry up and down 176. Maybe they just want to live in Packlet, but they actually work at BMW. And maybe they don't have kids.
There's a lot of people in Packlet that do work at BMW.
And this is an opportunity. This provides a different product, a different price point with amenities on site that puts the open space back to the ability so that everyone in that community can enjoy that open space and can enjoy the amenity features that and that's one reason we're putting those in, is to attract potential new home buyers to come live in the community. Once again, the market dictates what people can buy. I know there's not a lot of people in this room tonight that want a 6-acre lot, but as for many people here in opposition of this type of small lot type of development, there's twice as many people on the outside that would love to live in a community like this and would love to be a part. It's kind of like Las Vegas. You don't build big buildings in a desert if they're not making any money. nobody's gonna take the risk of taking down a piece of property and developing a development that this will cost, Mark III, if there hasn't been any kind of background research, market analysis, and everything about whether or not the lots will actually sell.
Something I find interesting is between your single-family homes and your multifamily townhomes, there's trees. So that those people in the single-family homes have some privacy. There's trees along the roadway so that the people have privacy from the road, I guess, but there's nothing there where those houses are existing. There's pre-existing houses.
There's
trees giving the new single-family homes privacy from the townhomes.
The existing, what we're showing on this plan is 25 feet. Can we go back and look at that and maybe, I talked about what we could potentially do to work with those adjacent residences, to work with the town and the adjacent residences to make sure that that buffer's provided. Yes, I can sit here today on record and say we're willing to do that. We can look at maybe shortening those lots up and increasing that, maybe those lots are 115 feet deep, and we add that 20 feet back into that buffer, so all of a sudden a 25-foot buffer turns into a 45-foot buffer. Those are things that we're willing to do and look at.
Would you be willing, I guess it's marked through, whatever. Would you be willing to take lot number 1 through number 21 and make that green space? That way it will not be on top of these neighbors that are already there. Just that back row right back there, if that was green instead of houses. It's 21 houses. At 21 from 276, you're still going to have a lot of houses over there.
Yeah. I think we'd be willing to do what I mentioned was increasing that buffer. And just because
would you be willing to?
But keep in mind, there's trees already that are buffering between the properties.
Okay. And number 1 through number 21. If you did not develop any of those lots and left them alone, then I think people would be more willing to want to change this zoning and let it be residential. That's just a little bit of give there.
You're asking us to eliminate 1 through
21 and make that green space. That's your buffer, that's your green space, and...
We can't. Financially, it doesn't make sense. We'd be willing to maybe consider a privacy fence or beefing up, the buffer, but you're asking us to lose 22 lots, which is significant.
Why can't you bring the road around that retention basin that is at the bottom of the right-hand corner and put those houses in that corner to open up that area? Why can't you move those, shift them somewhere else? Or come up here where the commercial area is supposed to be and put them in there? That way you allow plenty of space. Because people are moving here to Packard because it's...
Okay, we're not getting anywhere.
I do have one last question for y'all, though. A lot of the benefits for the community that I'm understanding are for a community that doesn't exist yet. And I'm really having trouble understanding, other than the fact that, again, we will get fees and things that will go to the town, how is this benefiting our current community? We can't use your parks, we can't use your walkways. You have an HOA, and our town has literally fought back to make sure that we don't have those kind of restrictions in the areas that already exist here, and the community that already exists here does not like that kind of restriction on their stuff, so it's not conducive with what is already here. So I'm really struggling to understand, other than from a small financial, yes, we get the fees, how is this benefiting our existing community?
I think the best answer to that is just basically saying that at some point in time, officials with the town of Packlet established a comp plan as to how they want to see their town developed over the next 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years. And our charge is to, okay, I'm looking at a piece of property. What can I do on this piece of property? I don't completely understand the everyday workings and dynamics of the town of Packlet. I can tell you that it would bring more residences for commercial retailers, restaurant owners in the town of Packlet. So it brings more foot traffic to those potential business owners who currently exist in the town of Packlet. It brings a tax base, which the gentleman kind of outlined before. I think there's more to it than some of those numbers, but it does bring a new tax base to the town of Packlet. And it brings in more residents to support what it sounds like to me, that maybe there's some need for help with fire, police, emergency services that maybe are hurting right now. It brings in a tax revenue to help those services out and support those services. But if and that's just solely based off of looking at your comp plan and looking at what the needs are and looking at what the long-term vision that was set forth by the town of Packlet. And we think that we fit into that long-range plan, that comp plan that was established and I assume approved by the town of Packlet.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So, how much did you say these homes would be on the market for? These standalone homes?
I can speculate, I mean, obviously, I don't want to speak for any kind of builder, but based on like market analysis, it's going to be in the high 200s to low 300s.
That's gentrification.
Y'all can't be speaking, they talking to them.
So,
Y'all think y'all change it. Don't be running in, but yeah.
So, if it was proposed 276 houses, and we subtracted that 21 of the lots that I was suggesting, and each house that you sold out of the 255 would bring $51 million. Now, why are you saying that's not feasible? You want more?
No.
Keep in mind that they are not the builders. They are the developers on there. The developers sell the property to a builder who builds on that lot. So they don't get that $290,000.
They gotta sell it to the builder.
They're going to end up getting the cost, they're going to get a cost of the lot.
And how much are you gonna charge for the lot?
What they end up getting for the lots,
I was asking him because he works for them, doesn't he?
Yeah, that's undisclosed because we haven't priced the stuff out.
Pardon me?
We don't have that number yet because we haven't priced what the grading, the paving, the storm, the sewer, the curb, the gutter is going to cost. That'll all come once we get approved and designed. And let me go back to Paul's comment about, Packlet. And we knew this was going to be an uphill battle, and we understand that this isn't our first rodeo, but we've had several meetings with Mr. Kay, on coming to Packlet, and he's been gracious enough to come to our office. We've come here to talk about it. He's given us the looking forward vision of Packlet, utilizing the river, these parks, revitalizing the area, food truck Fridays, concerts, all this kind of awesome stuff. And we were on board with that. We think it's awesome. I mean, I think it's a beautiful place that has a lot of potential for like a cool atmosphere. Not anything that you don't already have now, but we felt like we could kind of kick it off and like sell residents on, look at the future of Packlet and like the community that it's going to, that the vision is there, around the river and, having paddle boards boards and kayaks and, all kinds of stuff like that. So we felt like we could be a visionary and like kind of kick this off. That was just kind of like our vision going aligned with what Mr. Kay had like presented to us.
Several of us were on that steering committee, and our main focus was to make Packlet an outdoor recreation area, like our growth be there. So how does that fit, how does this fit in with our vision for, our 10-year vision for the town?
May I answer?
Being in 270-something houses, because we haven't even started on a lot of that. There's some people in town that are doing it on their own, cleaning up behind the train station. They're doing other things, people that are involved. But we talked about the river and putting in a boardwalk, and we haven't even been able to start on any of that stuff yet. So how does adding 276 homes that Packlet doesn't have access to benefit our community?
So to be able to do the development on the Riverwalk, you have to pay for it. And the cost on there is coming anywhere from around $5 to $10 million cost.
And we have talked about, you were looking into grants.
Right. I look into grants, but the thing is when a lot of these grant places, they like to see that the town's putting some skin in the game. They want to make sure that you're putting in just as much as they're putting in. The town of Packlet currently has the ability to do what's called a general obligation bond, which is a loan, basically. And the state of South Carolina limits the amount of money that you can loan out for projects. They limit it based off of your assessed value. The assessed value in the town of Packlet, not the total value of the whole community, but the assessed value. You take that amount, you multiply it either times 4% or 6%, depending on if it's residential owner-occupied, or commercial property on there, and you get an assessed value. The town of Packlet's current assessed value is $7.5 million. In the state of South Carolina, you can go no more than 8% of your assessed value, which the town of Packlet ends up being around $610,000. And that's not a bad amount of money. But to be able to leverage to get to the point that you want to do $8 to $10 million with a riverfront property out there, you've got to get to at least $1 million of GO bond to be able to do that. Now, many of you are aware that we have a quarry coming into town. And part of their development agreement stated that the town of Packlet will get a 20 cent per ton for every ton that comes out of the ground. They're estimating to do about 1 million tons, which makes sense based on what Vulcan currently does. So the town can bring in approximately $200,000 of revenue. The problem is general obligation is not based off of your revenue. It's based on your assessed value. So the town can't fully leverage that $200,000 to be able to provide you $1 million GO bond, which will be paid for by the mill or paid for by the quarry that's out there. You can't leverage that until you have the assessed value. This particular property here, if you look at around $275,000 on average for the pros that are out there, multiplied by about 276 homes, approximately, you get about $75 million. Now, I'm not sure where the math was on the previous person up here, but $75 million times 4% gets you around $3 million of assessed value. $3 million of assessed value times 0.0842, which is the millage rate in the town of Packlet, gets the town about $255,000 to $260,000 of revenue each year. That revenue ends up being able to support you having another police officer. The town of Packlet currently has only one officer per shift. So if one of our officers has to end up arresting someone and taking them to Spartanburg County, you have no one in the town. If they're pulling somebody over, that person is working with that one person. You really need to have a situation that you get 2 officers per shift. And to be able to get this, you allow developments like this to be able to happen in your community. So for us to be able to do the projects on the river, you need to be able to have more assessed value in your community. You've got to be able to do the projects that you want. I'd love to, and there are grants that are out there. But grants want to make sure that you're leveraging just as much as they are. There's an ARC grant that we can get for about $1 million. There's land water conservation funds that we can get out there. There's historic mill tax credits that you can get. But you're still going to have to leverage some of your own money. And you can pay a geo bond with the money that's coming in from the mine. But you can't loan out that money without more projects like this. Keep in mind, the town of Packlet has already lost a bank and already lost a pharmacy because you don't have enough activity and demand in this area. You're looking at 276 homes. They're going to have, I don't know, 2.5 to 3 people per home that are living out there. You need more people living in your community to justify a business wanting to open up a bank or a pharmacy here. You need this. What's great about this particular project that's out here is up on 176. They are purposely not connecting this project onto Briarwood. They are purposely not connecting this into Morningstar. They are setting this up so the developments that happen out here, the people who live out here will access 176. And that's be their access point. Now, if they would like to go and shop in Packlet, they're welcome to. But you need an increased number of people living in your community if you want it to be sustainable.
Is it sustainable or is it grow? Because at this point, I think based off of our last financial stuff, we're pretty sustainable. We actually have some decent money, other than that we can't get money in to repair roads and things, but we have penny taxes coming for that eventually.
The current situation is, yes, the town of Packlet does have a pretty substantial fund balance because over the years the town has saved very well. But you're going to have to start tapping into that fund balance to be able to continue.
Even with
things cost more money every year.
Even with the increased revenue that we're going to be getting from the quarry and all of that stuff, we're going to be spending more than we have?
You're going to get to the point where I'm going to have to come to the commissioners or the council members, and I'm going to have to say, listen, if y'all want to be able to keep this one officer, if you want to be able to keep these additional employees in the town, you're going to have to increase your millage rate.
And what percentage can the millage rate go up, like at one time? What are the limits on that? So when you say millage rate, you know, that everyone gets scared about that, but let's be honest about how much a millage rate can actually increase and what that actually adds up to. So legally, South Carolina can increase a millage rate by how much in a year or in so many years?
Well, the thing is they can increase it by 15%, but the thing is, since the town of Packlet has not increased a millage rate in 12 to 15 years, the town banks that ability. And so they are able to increase it more.
What is the percentage from that bank, do you know?
I don't have that offhand. I don't even want to think about it.
Okay.
I don't want the community to have to think about it. The town needs additional revenue coming in. It needs to. Or you're going to get to the point where you're going to have to start laying off employees. Or offer less services for the community.
And we have light industry is what this is currently zoned at from what we passed from the last, zoning ordinance. We don't have any interest from any kind of industrial to come into this area, which is what we were planning on pulling.
There was somebody that was interested, but they're not going to be able to move forward on this project. And there are industry that's happening outside of the town of Packlet. You've got Eaton that's coming in, bringing in 700 jobs. You've got the large development that's going in the old Kohler place that's only bringing in 27 jobs. And then I think you're going to end up seeing some announcements come very soon on projects on Tracus, and I think you'll see developments happening on 176. If you've seen recently that Union County has just recently expanded drastically sewer throughout their entire county, and there's a lot of vacant land that's on 176. And so I think there's going to be some opportunities where there's going to be some developments coming in. The town of Packlet is currently at 2,200 people. This development may bring in 500 or 600 people. You still retain your small town charm. You end up having like Inman, which I believe is around 4,000 or 5,000 people. I still consider that a small town. Springs, approximately 12 to 15,000 people. You would need about 4 to 5 of this type of development every single year for 5 years to catch up to Boiling Springs.
Well, one of the things I think that is, we know that this community has pushed back on a lot of things as far as building codes, people coming around, looking at properties, overstepping things. Once we open the door for somewhere that's an HOA, that sets precedence for the rest of our community. They're going to be held to a standard, and are they going to be coming through our town going, oh, well, we don't like what we're seeing, because that happens a lot when people move in here. They don't like what the rest of our town looks like, and then therefore, those of us that have existed here are being told that we have to live to a higher standard that maybe we just don't want to live at.
So the town of Packlet has not seen a development of this size in more than 50 years. And actually, I don't think you've had this size development since the mill came into town. So, but by the time the mill started in 1870s, up until now, I mean, having one development of this size, I do not want the town of Packlet to become Boiling Springs. I do not want Packlet to become this over-sprawling place. I don't think council does not want that at all. Small town charm was one of the biggest topics that was discussed in there.
And I don't see how an HOA fits into our small town charm. That's what I'm saying. And on top of that, is it unprecedented for the HOA to have to pay a certain percentage to the town since we don't have any access to these amenities and the things like that? I mean, is there a way that we can say, okay, just like with the rock quarry, they're giving you so much per tonnage. If we're going to go ahead and do some development like this, is there not a way to say, hey, you're going to contribute to a park that the rest of the citizens can use since we can't use your park? You don't want us there on your stuff.
The developers are paying for that park. The town is not paying for that park.
Right.
And then the HOA, or the residents who live there, are paying to maintain that park. The town of Packlet does not have to maintain that park.
Right, I understand that they don't have to, but, are we going to say, oh, well, you can't come to the rest of the parks that are around here? I just, like I said, that's not conducive to the kind of community that we have here, where somebody would probably give a shirt off their back to help somebody else. So when I hear that, that sounds like gentrification to me, and that makes me think, I don't know about that.
It's like, for instance, if Kim wanted to come by and use your kitchen.
Yes? Come on, Kim. I'm serious. You need to use my kitchen, Kim, you come on over there. That's the community. I moved here, and that's the welcome I've had from this community. That's the way people are here.
I'm real disappointed that I truly do not see how it is not feasible to take out 1 through maybe 18 lots and let that be natural. I'm asking you, Ms. Well, if you can't tell me how much you're going to charge per lot, you won't tell me that. So how do you know it's going to be a deal breaker?
Money loss.
I mean...
You're talking about taking out
I'm talking about people.
18 lots. I understand that.
Yeah,
I understand what you're saying, but financially, from a business standpoint, it would break a deal. Now, we're happy to enhance that buffer, whether it's a 6 to 8 foot screening fence. Is it added landscaping? Is it to shorten the lots a little bit? Because obviously, these lots are 135 foot deep. I mean, the house isn't going all the way to the back. I mean, there's going to be a backyard there, and they're probably going to build a fence or have some landscaping. I mean, don't get me wrong that there's going to be a 135 foot deep house there. No, I mean, it's going to be much shorter than that. So there's going to be a backyard for these people. They're going to do their own planting. They're going to put their own screening fences up. But we're happy to landscape in addition to keeping the natural buffer that is already there.
Okay, we got one more question from,
I had a question. Do you have any idea that other development that's putting in that's not annexed in, how many houses they're gonna have?
I do not know. I believe it's 50 acres. It's a Hodge lot. It just sold for about $500,000. I can reach out to the Spartanburg County Planning Commission and see if they have anything on there. But within outside of the town of Packlet, we have no control over anything, or
That's
no.
what I'm saying, but where they're located, because it's like Packlet, then they're not in Packlet, and then it's Packlet again. Now, are we gonna have to service them? Like their roads, our police department, all that?
No.
they're
And
not part of it.
anything that's outside of the town of Packlet is not covered by police protection.
Okay, that's what I want to know. And if you could find out about how many.
Yeah, I will.
And if you're going to ask the county, will you also ask them about how many houses are going to go in at the four-way of Ingalls and Country Club Road? Because that's also going to be a large development that's going in there. It's over 7 acres, and that's going to be multifamily, I believe, too. So it's not like there's a lack of developments coming to this area.
Yeah, I could get the Ingalls and Country Club, and then this is development on the corner of 150 and 176, is that right?
We'll get Carolina Country Club, it's one of their
And I'll email that out to y'all once I have that.
now, can I get a motion from someone?
I make a motion.
Wait, hold on. Can I get a motion on the request to rezone 3-33-00-002.00 and 3-33-00-012.01 from 1-1 light industry to FR, to flexible review district and C-4 general commercial district. Can I get a motion?
I make a motion to deny the rezoning since we just spent all that time and we decided on light industry, and I don't think we should go back.
I second.
Say that again.
There's a motion to deny?
Yes.
Okay.
And it's been seconded.
All right, motion to,
Just because I wouldn't approve it.
okay, motion has been denied.
Well, we need a vote. We need a vote.
Vote? That's what I'm saying, vote. All those in favor? Do so by show of hands, yes. All those in favor to deny.
All those in favor?
Leave it currently the way it is.
Yes, to
The
deny,
light industrial.
to keep light industrial.
I'm in favor.
Residential.
All those against?
Are all of you raised?
Yeah, everyone denying.
Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's 5 denied.
Yes.
How about you voted?
No, I didn't even have to since I,
She
right?
abstained.
I don't have to vote.
Well, I mean, we
Well,
have
if you
to.
abstain,
I
it's,
abstain.
What's that?
I abstain.
Okay.
May I ask the developer a question?
I don't think so, sir.
This is something simple.
He wants.
are we going to move to comments? I have one comment for the comments.
You go ahead, if you want to go ahead and close, if someone wants to ask a question after the meeting,
Okay, if you want to ask a question after the meeting, you're welcome to. After the meeting.
Are we moving to comments? Can I make?
Make a motion here.
Well, we have a comments section yet for on the agenda. I just would like to say that to those in attendance, please be aware that when the Planning Commission makes this recommendation, it is a recommendation, and that it is not final. So if you have strong feelings still about this, you're going to have to see your council members because they can overturn what we've done here. That's my comment.
Yes, because what we do here is we send the recommendation to council. Can I get a motion to adjourn this meeting?
I make a motion. I second.
All those in favor? Meeting adjourned.
All right.